Man vs. Nature by Greg Huffman. I was recently having a discussion on a philosophy forum about what makes more aesthetically pleasing works, man or nature. I voted for man and was surprised how much man self-hatred there was. Not that there's anything wrong with voting for nature, but some of the responses I received seemed to imply that man couldn't dare compete and that man was evil by comparison. Aesthetically, at least visually, is really man's only contestable battle with nature when it comes to who does what better. I've always been a sucker for waterfalls myself. Nature also has a monopoly of overwhelming grandeur with huge mountains, not to mention entire galaxies and planets, and all the other heavenly bodies. I thought I might have to concede on this topic altogether, or at least wait until I had done more research, but then I remembered Ayn Rand talking about how beautiful the New York skyline was, and how it was superior to anything done by nature. I googled images of it, most of them taken at night, and I may have to agree with her. It was a veritable sight of beauty, on par with the best nature has to offer. However, despite the pyramids and the hanging gardens, man might be outnumbered if quantity is also a factor to be considered with quality. And speaking of hanging gardens, would that count as a hybrid? Though, to be fair, anything man makes technically is also a work of nature. There is no such thing as something that isn't natural, because if it is allowed to happen by nature, then it is. Also, all the materials man uses to construct will come from nature, so at what point does it become artificial? Someone pointed out the human brain as proof of nature's work, but I think there is somewhat of an arbitrary divide between man and nature anyway. Since man is a subcategorization of nature, I would say that, yes, the human brain is the finest work of nature, but it would also have to be disqualified in consideration of a competition between man versus nature. Otherwise, you would also have to include every consequence of the human brain, and then the competition would be impossible, since it would really be more of a cooperation between man and nature. As Friedrich Schelling said, I also believe that man is nature becoming self-aware of itself, and therefore, I believe that a conscious nature does its best works rather than when it creates by accident. Now, if we were to consider music, the opposite would be true of what was true in regards to visual beauty. Nature may have the serene sounds of waterfalls, raindrops, and birds and things, but man has an unlimited assortment of music to choose from that dwarfs nature in the oral game. We can cover different moods, more diverse sounds, etc. And also regarding almost every other art form, nature would be barred by default of the fact that they are all human artifices that an unconscious nature can't engage in. J.J. Rousseau was full of shit. I haven't read enough of Hobbes yet to know his particulars, so I shan't comment on him yet. However, man is always accused of being immoral, destructive, etc., whereas nature is always brutal, nearly without exception. Man can recognize brutal behavior, and man has a choice. It is good to criticize another man when he acts inappropriately, but to set nature as the ideal is a ridiculous notion. Though man is sometimes guilty for his immoral acts that can lead to harm to his fellow man or creatures, nature destroys without care immorally. What would you rather be attacked by? An immoral man with a knife? Or an immoral godless killing machine like a bear? Protagoras said that man was the measure of all things, and so it is in this world. An animal has no purpose except what man gives it. Why does an animal serve no purpose? Well, I guess it may reduce to circular reasoning if we don't define our axioms or premises. I think purpose is defined by conscious beings, and thus only man has that right now. I'm not advocating animal cruelty, but rather I am saying, if an animal is destroyed inadvertently by the acts of man, so be it. It was his natural time to go. Since man is as natural as any other species, he also possesses the right to compete with his fellow animals and eliminate them from existence if he so chooses. However, the only argument against this is if doing so has a negative impact on man. Global warming is a problem not because it harms the earth, but because harming the earth harms us. Destroying trees is a problem not because of the trees, but because man needs trees to survive, and probably also appreciates the aesthetic serenity of being among them. Destroying plants or animals that have medicinal value is also a bad idea. However, we shouldn't be concerned with some useless organism like the fly or anything like that. Animals in nature are not valuable intrinsically, but only given value by a conscious being. When another animal other than man can attain that level, then it has earned the same rights that Protagoras has attributed to man, but not until then. Men can be compassionate for one another and show brotherly love. Nature devoid of feelings and morals tells the stronger to eat the weaker. There is no unity in nature. Order only arises out of chaos. Man has created works of art over a short lifespan. Nature, lacking conscious thoughts, has only arrived at beauty blindly via an exponentially huge head start advantage. Man can pillory another man for being immoral. Nature rewards immoral behaviour by having the murderous creature absorb its kill as food for it and its spawn. Man has provided sanctuary for nature, but do you ever see that happen vice versa? The most caring and useful animals are those domesticated by man. Nature without man is a dumb zombie. Remember that for morality to exist, there needs to be the option of making the morally correct choice, and that is why you should fear nature, because nature will fucking kill you and not feel guilty about it. So why is it that man is always hating on his fellow man as evil? You should take pride in the fact that man can express the woes of guilt not just for himself, but his fellow man. It is more than nature will ever do. You can fix your problems, you can build. Almost no animal is capable of building, and the ones that can suck at it. Embrace technology, embrace expansion, embrace globalization, embrace capitalism. Your fellow man can listen to logic, nature will not. Modern man may not be perfect, but times are always getting better. And why? By leaving nature further and further behind. We are always getting more freedoms, better medicines, more conveniences, tastier foods. Living in bigger cities causes us to see more perspectives and to appreciate our fellow man better. Reverting the trend and setting nature as the goal will cause a devolution. Do you want to put man back in the cave? Think of how a caveman would act morally. Think of how long you would live as a caveman. How badly would you suffer? How lousy would life be? How poor would art be? Shit everywhere. No movies, no books, no video games. The advancement of technology and the political progress of man, and any potential conscious beings, is what makes life interesting and worth living. To stagnate would be to live a meaningless existence. Every day would be Groundhog Day. Nature created germs, disease, insects, and the anus. Man created sanitation, medicine, insecticide, and anal sex. Man is always having to plug up the mistakes of nature.